We are 9 days away from opening day, and still, we're not sure what the Rangers opening day roster is going to look like. On today's show, I'm taking my best guess. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show. On today's show, we're breaking down my third version of my opening day roster projection. Maybe this time it will be completely right, because hopefully, and I'm not even bothering to knock on wood anymore, there are no more injuries to this starting rotation. Before we get into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Now, here we are. Usually, I only do about 2, maybe 3 opening day roster projections. The last one I did was 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. It's been a minute, and there have been some changes to the Rangers opening day roster. Off will be Jon Gray. Off will be Cody Bradford. Both of them dealing with injuries. Jon Gray dealing with a fractured wrist, which at minimum will keep him out 10 weeks. Huge loss for the Rangers, just really not at all what they needed. And then Cody Bradford, who we thought might be just sitting for 4 to 5 days with that elbow soreness, will be sitting for at least 3 weeks before he starts throwing again. Hopefully that's it. Hopefully he gets back to throwing right at 3 weeks from when the news was dropped this weekend. But the Rangers have some openings in their starting rotation, and I'm not entirely sure that the hitters were exactly as chalk as I expected. Mostly as chalk, but not quite. Let's look at those hitters, starting with the catchers. Kyle Higashioka and Jonah Heim will be the Rangers opening day catchers. I do not perceive there being a third catcher on this roster, unless you're counting high school/college catcher Wyatt Langford. He will not be catching in any games, barring some sort of emergency. I did say Kyle Higashioka's name first, not because they're alphabetically first. He's actually not. H-I is after H-E, but I think H-E, Kyle Higashioka, will be the Rangers opening day starter at catcher. He has had a much better spring. He had a much better 2024. He is just, right now, I think, a better catcher. Defensively, Jonah Heim has the edge, but offensively, it's been a bit of a struggle for him in spring training. It has not been particularly effective for him. Not that spring training numbers matter all that much, but the quality of the plate appearances hasn't been all that great. It doesn't seem like Jonah Heim is just getting unlucky. And meanwhile, Kyle Higashioka is absolutely mashing this spring training. He's hitting .391. He's got a 1293 OPS, 3 home runs, tied for the team lead, 10 RBIs. If you're into that sort of thing, I am from time to time. He's also got a pair of doubles, 2 walks to 5 strikeouts in 26 plate appearances. This is not what we're going to expect from Kyle Higashioka in the regular season, but in spring training, and given what he did last year, which was absolutely mash in a very limited sample size. I mean, fewer than 250 plate appearances, and he had 17 home runs. I don't know if he's going to keep up that kind of a pace this year. I think I highly doubt it. But what he's done so far in spring training and what he did last year, given what Jonah Heim has done in spring training and what Jonah Heim has done last year, I think Higgy's going to get the bulk of the results, of the bulk of the starts behind the dish. I think there's going to be a moderately even split, but Heim has no one to blame but himself in his poor year last year. I think there's a good catcher still very much in there. I don't know if there's quite all-star level for either of these guys. I mean, if Higgy hits 17 home runs in 80-something games and he does most of that in the first half, then I think Kyle Higashioka will be an all-star, but I don't necessarily foresee that kind of production from Kyle Higashioka. That was, a career high. I don't think that's a career norm per se. On the infield at first base, we have Jake Berger. Oh, I'm still doing first alternates. First alternate, still Tucker Barnhart. That's it. There's some depth there. Chad Wallach maybe might get some plate appearances if there's an injury to Heim or Higgy. And also, there's an injury to Tucker Barnhart, but I don't really foresee it going all that far. On the infield at first base, we have Jake Berger. Second base, we have Marcus Semien. At shortstop, it's actually going to be Jonathan Ornelas. Just kidding. No, it's going to be Corey Seager. We all know that. And then Josh Young at third base, manning that hot corner with the everyday DH / also playing some first base. We will see Jock Peterson. Also on the infield, we will see Josh Smith, Joshua H. Pookie, hits real good, all-star, silver slugger, soon-to-be gold glover Smith. Yeah, all those names, all in one. Just one guy, though. First alternate is definitely going to be Jonathan Ornelas. I think we're going to see quite a bit of days off for everybody on this infield. I think we'll see quite a few more days off from Corey Seager than we'd seen in the past. We're going to see, I think, more than 2 days off from Marcus Semien this year. I think last year he had 3 or 4 days off, which was just, exponentially higher than what he'd been doing the last few years. I mean, Semien is getting a little bit older. He's not old by any means, but just the necessity of playing all 162 with what it does to tire him out. By the time we saw the postseason last year, I mean, he was exhausted. Or 2023. I guess that was 2 years ago now. But I think we'll see quite a few more days off from him. We'll see Josh Smith playing, I think, pretty regularly. I don't think he's going to be an opening day starter per se. But I think we're going to see quite a bit of Josh Smith, whether that's in the outfield, whether that's in the infield, DHing, giving guys half days, days off, full days off. I think we're going to see quite a bit of Josh Smith because he very much earned it with his play last year. In the outfield, in left field, we're going to see Wyatt Langford. I would love to see more of him in center field, but I think the Rangers are wanting to just help him, make that adjustment to the big leagues of, okay, just really, really feeling comfortable at one position and being excellent at that one position. Eventually, I think Wyatt Langford's going to be a center fielder. I know he can do it. We saw him do it down the stretch last year. I'd really like to see him do it against starting left-handed pitchers. We'd see him more in center field, but the Rangers saying, hey, we want this guy in left field. The center field job will be between Leody Taveras and Evan Carter, and I think Evan Carter will take the reins for that starting center field job, at least against right-handed starting pitching. In right field, we will see Adolis Garcia. On the bench, we will see Leody Taveras, who might get some starts in center field against right-handed pitching. He's looked much better. The quality of his plate appearances this spring have been significantly better than I expected. I was really disappointed in what Leody did offensively last year. Defensively, it felt like he also took a step back, which is just not what you want to see from a guy who is a very much glove-first guy. But I don't see any scenario where Leody Taveras doesn't make the team on opening day outside of just an injury. I just don't see it, especially with how good he's looked this spring, to the point where it has me questioning my next pick and my final hitter on this roster. I could have gone chalk. I could have just said Zeke Duran, but I think Kevin Pillar's really made an impact this spring. I think the Rangers really like what they see in him. He gives them a type of player that they do not have on this roster, a guy who can play all 3 outfield positions and mash lefties. Well, I mean, I think Wyatt Langford can do that, but a guy who is just going to play almost exclusively, I think, against left-handed starting pitching. I think he's going to get a lot of those starts in center field on days where the Rangers give Evan Carter off against a tough lefty, or maybe any lefty for the beginning of this season to kind of, help that wear and tear on Evan Carter's back. If the Rangers if Evan doesn't put too much stress on his back this year, that chronic back issue that he dealt with last year and that he dealt with a couple years earlier in the minor leagues that sidelined him for a big chunk of that season. I think if the Rangers play it more delicately with him now, they are thinking that condition can go into remission, and then he can just have kind of more of a normal workload. That's why I think Kevin Pillar will make this team. I think he has done enough this spring. I think he has done enough in his career against left-handed pitching, and still has that value out there in center field. He can still go out there and get it, even in his mid-30s. He's done a good job this spring. I've really liked what I've seen from him. They really like him in the clubhouse, and it doesn't seem like he's going to go retire to his llama and chicken farm in Argyle just quite yet. And the first alternate will be Zeke Duran. Now, if there's some kind of injury or anything else, I think Zeke Duran would be the first one called up, whether it's, an injury to the infield or to the outfield outside of a catcher. If there's any hitter that goes down with an injury, I think Zeke Duran is going to be the first one up. I am still a big believer in Zeke Duran and his ceiling as an everyday first division starting caliber player, whether that's a short, third, second, right, left, who knows at this point. But it's just been a tough spring and a tough last year for Zeke Duran. Heck, it's been tough since the back half of 2023. I mean, the Rangers still don't win that World Series without what Zeke Duran did, but with what he's doing right now, he still has a little bit of a ways to go. If he just absolutely mashed left-handed pitching, I don't think that there would be a role for Kevin Pillar. I think the Rangers would definitely have Zeke Duran on there. He would be playing against left-handed pitching. There's enough guys on this roster that are left-handed hitters that really can't hit left-handed pitching that would open up some opportunities for Zeke. But he just hasn't quite taken advantage just yet. I think eventually he might. But to start this season, I think the group of 13 hitters that give the Rangers the best chance to win is this group, and that includes Kevin Pillar out there on the bench in the outfield. Coming up, we're going to talk about what the heck the Rangers are going to do with this starting rotation. 2 injuries to the starting rotation. Does that mean that the Vandy Boys are going to slot right in there? We'll talk about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Just Ingredients. When it comes to refueling your body, quality matters. And that's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic associations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with 2-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. I love that Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without artificial junk. So visit justingredients.com/Bryce Harper and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off your order. And for more wellness tips, follow @just.ingredients on Instagram. The show is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Shout out to the editors making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow, she'll be back and talking about why the Rangers are putting a lot of faith in Tyler Mahle and why they kind of have to at this point. And speaking of starting pitching, we are at the pitching part of this opening day roster projection. We hit 13 hitters. We are going to hit 13 pitchers. Well, we're not going to hit them. Maybe some people will hit them. Hopefully, nobody will hit them too well. Starting on opening day for the second straight year, it's been the first time in a long time the Rangers have had consecutive, any one guy make consecutive opening day starts. It has been since Cole Hamels in 2016 and 2017. So it has been a minute for sure. Actually, I think that was 15 and 16. No, 16, 17. No, it's been a while. It's been a long while. But Nathan Eovaldi is taking the bump on opening day. He is the Rangers' number 1 in their rotation, just in terms of the, actual order from opening day. It does not mean he is going to be the best pitcher in this Rangers rotation, but I do think, I feel pretty pretty darn confident, especially with the Jon Gray injury keeping him out at least 10 weeks. Just, again, hoping things go well and go as planned, that Nathan Eovaldi is going to lead this team in innings, and he's going to do it because he pitches a lot of innings, not because nobody pitches that many innings. I think the Rangers need probably at least 150 innings from Nathan Eovaldi, coming off 170 last year, and then 145-ish, I believe, in the regular season in 2023, followed by some absolutely magnificent innings in the postseason, including starting the winning game of the final World Series clincher, Game 5 against the Diamondbacks. One of the most magnificent performances we have ever seen. The Rangers are not going to need exactly that all season long, but just some more consistent Nathan Eovaldi, a guy who is a borderline all-star, and the Rangers, they need at least 30 starts from Evo. They cannot suffer another pitching injury. Maybe once Jon Gray and Cody Bradford get back, then they could, at least early on in the season, they need a healthy and good version of Nathan Eovaldi. Hopefully something like the 2023 version of Nathan Eovaldi in that month of May, where he just went on a freaking heater. Jacob deGrom went down. He said, "Don't worry, guys. I got you. Your bullpen's trash. Doesn't matter. The offense not hitting as much as we wanted. Doesn't matter." Nathan Eovaldi stepped up in a big way when the Rangers needed him most in the regular season in 2023 and in the postseason. And, he stepped up and did his job in 2024. He wasn't exceptional, but he more than did his job. I mean, he more than did it. The reason the Rangers lost or didn't even make the postseason last year was not because of Evo. It just wasn't. And if the Rangers do make the postseason this year, it might just be because of Nathan Eovaldi and because of Tyler Mahle, the Rangers' number 2 starter in this rotation this year. I think that's pretty clear. I think he's going to start Game 2. I feel pretty confident about that, or he's at least going to start one of those games of the 4 in Boston. He's not going to start on opening day, not going to start the 5th game of the season. That's going to be Jacob deGrom. Yes, we skipped from 1 to 5 because number 3 and 4 in this rotation right now is very much up in the air. The obvious front runners, you may be expecting me to say Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker, and you're right. That's who I'm going to say. I think these guys are the best options the Rangers have right now. I don't see the Rangers doing something dramatic and going and making a signing. I think that they should go out and get a Kyle Gibson. I think that would take a lot of the pressure off of Rocker and Leiter and make them more work for those spots as opposed to being reluctantly pushed into them, because the other options the Rangers have they aren't good enough right now. They aren't. And Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker might not be quite good enough right now, but I think they're good enough, if that makes sense. I think that they're just a little bit away from being ready to handle that everyday spot in the rotation. With Rocker, there's more questions for me just about how much the Rangers are going to pitch him this year, how many pitches he's going to be able to throw, how many innings per start he's going to be able to throw, how many starts in general he's just going to get. And so once Cody Bradford gets back, if he's being stretched back out to be a starter, I think that Rocker could go down just to save some wear and tear on his arm. And hopefully you have Rocker ready for the postseason, because I think by the end of this season, Rocker could be the 3rd best pitcher in this Rangers rotation. Right now, not quite there. I think he is good enough right now to be that number 4 in the Rangers rotation, and that's going out there every 5th day, every 5th game, giving you about 5 innings, hoping for an ERA around 4, maybe 4.5. I know that doesn't sound outstanding, but for right now, for where he is, I think that's what the Rangers need, and I think it's what Leiter can give them as well. Maybe a little bit better version of that, because Jack, I don't think is going to have any kind of limits on his pitch count. I think he could be able to go out there every 5th day. I think he's going to be able to throw 80 to 100 pitches per start. I think he is closer to being ready than Rocker is right now, just because Jack has a little bit more of a complete arsenal. I think the best pitch that each guy has is, I think Rocker has the edge on that, of his best pitch being better than Jack's best pitch. But Jack's 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th best pitches are ones that he trusts more than Rocker does at this point. So the pitch mix looks better for Leiter. The aggression, the confidence for both these guys is still sky high. I'm not really worried about the makeup of either of these guys. Both of them are very, very smart. Both of them are very, very talented. Both of them very, very hardworking. And I think both of them will be more than competent starting pitchers in the 2026 Rangers rotation. For right now, it's not particularly ideal, but it's a good learning experience and something you don't often get on a team with aspirations this high. Usually, if you have aspirations this high, you don't have time for two of your top pitching prospects to just come in and figure out what it's like to start every fifth day and how to go about that while still trying to win games. Usually that's not how development works, but with the situation the Rangers are in right now with Jon Gray's broken wrist and with the elbow soreness from Cody Bradford, the Rangers are going to need a decent bit of starts from both of these guys. I wouldn't be surprised if Jack Leiter makes 25 starts this year. I'd be more surprised about Rocker doing that, but if Jack, he's not that far off. Neither of these guys are that far off from really being ready to be thrust into a role like this. They're just not quite ready, if that makes sense. But you're going to do some learning at the big league level. I think that's going to be valuable lessons for these guys, valuable experiences. Learning from Nathan Eovaldi, learning from Jacob Grom, learning from Mike Maddox, who's one of the best pitching coaches in baseball. You're going to get a lot more experience and learn a whole lot more, a lot quicker, facing off against big league hitters, 1, 2, 3 times through the order, and having those kind of brilliant baseball minds to learn from. And the mistakes you make, you'll be learning from those a whole lot quicker because there will be more of them and they will be punished more aggressively than if you go out there and make a few of those same mistakes to AAA hitters. You could probably get away with it because AAA hitters are a lot worse than big league hitters. That's just kind of why they're in AAA. But I think this could be an opportunity for both of them to really step up in a big way. The Rangers need it desperately, and with their aversion to spending at that luxury tax level, this is the situation they got themselves in. The first alternate is Adrian Hauser. If the Rangers did want to do something dramatic, if you want just a guy who's going to go out there every fifth day, probably give you 5 innings, probably get shelled, the guy who has made the most starts since, I believe, 2020, Patrick Corbin. He's out there. He's bad, but he's out there. He would not be expensive. I think the Rangers could go get him for $1 to $3 million and then, cut him loose after a month or two. But he's a guy who is a big league caliber starter, barely. He's got to be healthy. I don't know how built up he is, so if he's not, then it's a moot point at this point. But as much as I would like them to go and get a Kyle Gibson or be really dramatic and take on Jordan Montgomery's salary and just plug him in there, I don't see that happening. So I think the Rangers are going to have to, go to the dance with the guys who they have at the dance. And right now, those guys are Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker. Now, what is this bullpen going to look like? Could the Rangers do something to supplement these two guys not quite being ready and go with a little bit of a different look to their pen? We're talking about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades, Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the Tros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use a promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Now, let's get into the bullpen. Usually, the hardest part of these opening day roster projections is projecting the bullpen, but when you sign 5 guys to guaranteed major league contracts and you make a trade for another one, it's a lot easier than in years past, because this honestly feels pretty chalk, and the roles also feel pretty chalked up at this point too. At closer, the Rangers will have Chris Martin. I feel very, very confident about that, especially to start the season. Maybe he doesn't end the season as the Rangers closer, but at least to start the year, he is going to be in that ninth inning role, and I feel very, very confident about that. I know he doesn't have a whole lot of career saves. He's very good. He's pitched the 8th inning. It's not all that much different from the 9th inning. He's got a World Series ring. He's pitched in high leverage spots. He's pitched on good teams in high leverage spots. And I'm hoping that this year he is going to do that again, because I'm also hoping that he is, not only pitching in high leverage spots, but also that the Rangers are a good team. I feel pretty confident in that, especially looking at this opening day roster, even with the question marks about the Vandy Boys of, it's only going to be for hopefully just a month for one of them, knock on wood again. Hopefully just 10 weeks for Jon Gray being out, that they don't need surgery, that it doesn't turn into a Josh Young situation. It's the wrist, so anything is possible, but we've already seen a wrist injury derail an entire season last year. Hopefully we don't see it again this year. We're really hoping that we don't. Or that even if we do, Leiter and Rocker are both just very good, and even though the Rangers emotionally missed Jon Gray, production-wise, hopefully it won't be that big of a deal. But in the setup role, I think we'll see a lot of Robert Garcia, the Rangers' left-handed reliever, who does have some options, some minor league options, 3 of them, to be specific. So but don't be surprised if at some point this season, if the Rangers have really taxed their bullpen highly, which seems like it's probably going to happen with Jacob deGrom being on kind of a limited capacity in terms of pitch count and workload early on in the season. We might see that for Tyler Mahle as well. We might see that for Kumar Rocker if he makes this Rangers opening day rotation. And we haven't seen, particularly economical pitch counts and starts from Jack Leiter. So it seems like the Rangers are going to need a lot of innings from their bullpen, and so that could lead to some guys cycling in and cycling out. I think these are going to be the best relief options the Rangers have, and eventually some of them might get sent down just because they're tired and they've been used a whole lot, and just because they have minor league options. So the next guy on this list also has minor league options. That's Mark Church. He has been fantastic this spring. He's added a new splinker, a third pitch. He's sitting up there in the 98 mile an hour range. I mean, velocity wise, nobody else in this bullpen is sitting 98. No one is touching 100 in this bullpen. I don't think, at least not to start the season, unless something miraculous happens. And that'd be really funny if Hobie Miller, who's averaged around 89, 90 with his fastball, throwing loopy sidearm sinker, if he just started throwing 100, I feel like there might be some PED checks on Hobie Miller if he started throwing up 100. But I think Mark Church is going to pitch in some high leverage innings as well. His slider is incredibly disgusting, and now that his fastball is sitting up there 98 miles an hour, that was the one thing the Rangers really needed from this pen. They've got a lot of different guys who give a lot of different looks. They've got some lefties. They've got different kinds of lefties. They've got a bunch of guys who can face lefties and righties. I mean, Robert Garcia, his best pitch is that changeup, but he averages around 94, maybe 95 if you're feeling generous with the fastball. The changeup is that best pitch, so he's going to be really good against righties. He's also got a slider that's pretty solid, not great, but a good enough weapon against left-handed hitters. So that's a guy who's going to be able to go multiple innings at times and can face all kinds of different types of hitters. You look at his baseball savant data from last year, you see how good he was despite the 4-something ERA. Again, reliever ERA is not the best indicator of how good they actually were. Go look at how few people he walked, how many people he struck out, how good his swinging strike rate was, how good he was at inducing weak contact. All those things you like pitchers to do, Robert Garcia did, and I think we'll see Mark Church do quite a bit of that this year. We could also see him optioned sometime early on in the season with the Rangers maybe overtaxing their bullpen in that first month. Really thankful they have so many off days in April because they're going to need every single one of them. But the next guy in this pen, Luke Jackson, he's looked really good this spring. The slider is sliding. The fastball's looking good. The curveball's looking pretty darn good as well. Good to see Lou Jax back in a Rangers uniform coming off of a disappointing year. He has the same agent as Kirby Yates, and Kirby Yates told him, hey, go sign with Texas. Kirby Yates pitched with Luke Jackson in Atlanta when he was coming back from multiple years off from Tommy John surgery. They have a pretty close relationship. Luke Jackson said he learned quite a bit from Kirby Yates, and Yates had a similar situation coming off of a year where he was healthier, establishing health. It didn't quite feel like he was fully the best version of himself, and Yates had a career year and got highly paid by the Dodgers. Wish he was highly paid by the Rangers, but alas, that goes into the point of this team not wanting to go into luxury tax despite wanting to compete for a World Series championship. It's a whole thing. We're just roster projecting. We're not yelling about billionaires not spending money on this episode, at least not that much. But I think Luke Jackson will be a welcome addition to this pen. Should be pretty good, might be very good, might be not great, but it's not a super high-paying contract. I believe it was $2.5 million the Rangers spent on Luke Jackson this year, banking on a breakout year from the former Ranger prospect. Great. I am excited to have him back, as I am excited for Jacob Webb, the changeup specialist, who is going to pitch some medium leverage innings, I think, this year. Could get thrust into some of those high leverage innings. He's a guy who doesn't throw particularly hard, and this spring has looked pretty solid. Not anything overwhelmingly great. He's got a 4.05 ERA. He's only struck out 5 and 6 2/3 innings, but he doesn't walk anybody, doesn't allow a whole lot of hard contact, and he's really, really tough on lefties as a right-handed pitcher with a disgusting changeup. We've already seen that in action this spring. Love seeing that. Also got a bit of a sweeper, so he can be pretty good against righties as well. I really like the pickup. I don't know why he got non-tendered by Baltimore. They could use a guy like this in their pen. They could use more, solid, dependable guys. He's been solid. I don't think he's going to be the Rangers' closer at any point in this season. I don't think the Rangers put him in a save situation, barring just everybody's really tired, and Jacob Webb is the best high-leverage guy we got, and we like the matchup that we got in that particular game. By we, I mean Bruce Bochy, the royal we, if you will. But I really like the Jacob Webb pickup, and I like the way that Chris Young went about building this bullpen. I know that I have said in many years past, I don't like spending a whole bunch of money on a closer, but when it's for a one-year deal, and it's a guy who's just coming off of a season, like Kirby Yates was doing, it felt like a reunion that would have made sense. But the Rangers spent about Kirby Yates level money for basically this entire pen. So would you rather have one Kirby Yates or 5 guys that are pretty solid? I think overall building a pen, having 5 guys that are pretty solid and hoping one of them turns out to be amazing, even if one of them is bad, I think that might be a better allocation of money. But still, I'm going to miss making those stupid Kirby memes. But Jacob Webb, we got on a tangent. That's what I do. But Jacob Webb, very fine addition to this bullpen. Another medium leverage reliever. Left-handed Hobie Milner, the side armor, the funky tosser with the sweeper and the sinker and the four-seamer and the changeup. Changeup's pretty good. Sweeper, very, very good. I think this guy has been murderous on lefties. I think he will continue to be murderous on lefties. That changeup is a very, very effective pitch against right-handed hitters. So he's a guy who can give you multiple innings if you need it. He's done that in the past. Not coming off the best year, but he's been a pretty solid reliever. I know he has not looked great this spring, but I'm still a big believer in Hobie Milner. I'm also a believer in Sean Armstrong, who will also almost assuredly be making this roster out of camp. Another guy who the Rangers didn't spend too much money on. Heck, none of these guys outside of Chris Martin, who signed a $5.5 million deal, none of them signed a deal bigger than $2.5 million. And to get 5 different guys for that amount of money, to be able to build basically a whole bullpen for under $15-12 million, that is a bargain. And Sean Armstrong is coming off of a down year. The Rangers are banking on him to bounce back as well. A guy who's got a bunch of different types of fastballs, has been very, very elite in the past. That was with the Rays. Can the Rangers bring out a similar level of production as he had with the Rays? Who's to say at this point? But the final spot, the long man in this pen, is going to be Dane Dunning. Dane Dunning still does have one minor league option left. The Rangers optioned him last year after just really, really bad performance. I think we could see him optioned at points this season. He took about as big of a pay cut as he could possibly take to stay with the Rangers, because otherwise the Rangers were probably going to non-tender him. I'm hoping that he bounces back to more of 2023 Dane Dunning. I would have thought that the Rangers would consider him for a spot in this rotation with the 2 injuries, but alas, that's not the case. And I think the first alternate here is going to be Emiliano Teodo. The wild card for him is maybe he could come in kind of a hybrid role, not a starter, is not at all ready to be a starter in the big leagues just yet, almost ready to be a reliever, maybe a guy who mops up multiple innings if the Rangers need someone who can come up, pitch multiple innings, maybe 2-3 innings if somebody has a blow-up start, and then get optioned back down. I think that could be a role for Emiliano Teodo. And overall, I like the shape of this roster. It's going to be a weird year for the Rangers, especially with these couple of injuries, but I think this is still the makings of a very, very good roster. I'm hoping that since I'm 9 days away, I got 26 for 26 on this opening day roster projection. I was going to throw in some lineups that I thought the Rangers would deploy, but we are already well at time for this episode. So I hope y'all like that. I hope the Rangers can give me something better to talk about, more optimistic thing to talk about with Tyler Mahle after tonight's start. But that's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.